The paramedic looked at me with eyes that had seen too much death and said, "Ma'am, I need you to understand. Your daughter's heart stopped beating 4 minutes ago." Quick question before we dive in. Where are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments. I love seeing where my stories travel. Now, let me take you back to that afternoon, because what happened next would change everything I thought I knew about luck, power, and the invisible threads that connect strangers in their darkest moments. My name is Vanessa Cole, and 6 months ago, I was just another single mother driving a 10-year-old Honda with a cracked windshield, trying to make it to my second job before my shift started. My daughter Maya was strapped in the back seat, 3 years old, humming some song from her favorite cartoon. She had this way of turning everything into music, even grocery lists, even my frustrated sighs when the bills piled up too high. I remember glancing at her in the rearview mirror, those brown eyes so full of wonder, and thinking, God, how did I get so lucky? Her father left when she was 6 months old, didn't even wait to see her first smile. But Maya? She smiled enough for both of them, enough to fill every empty space he left behind. The intersection was clear. I swear it was clear. I'd driven through that same light 1,000 times on my way from my morning shift at the diner to my evening shift at the warehouse. Route 29, just outside of Charlotte, nothing special about it. 4 lanes, a gas station on one corner, a strip mall on the other. The light turned green. I pressed the gas. That's when the black SUV came out of nowhere. People always say that in accidents, out of nowhere, but it's true. 1 second, the world makes sense. The next second, physics takes over, and your body becomes a rag doll inside a metal cage that's folding in on itself like aluminum foil. The sound was ungodly. Not just the crunch of metal, but something deeper. Something that vibrates in your bones and stays there long after the noise stops. I felt my head snap sideways, felt the seatbelt dig into my collarbone, felt glass raining down like frozen stars. But the worst sound? Silence. The moment everything stopped moving, I should have heard Maya crying. She cried when she scraped her knee. She cried when her favorite cup was in the dishwasher. She cried at sad parts in movies meant for adults. But now, nothing. I tried to turn around, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Everything hurt in that distant way where you know the real pain hasn't arrived yet, that your nervous system is still in shock, buying you a few precious seconds before reality crashes in. Maya? My voice came out like gravel. Baby! Still nothing. I forced myself to look back, and that's when my heart stopped beating alongside hers. Her little body was slumped forward against the car seat straps, head tilted at an angle that wasn't right. Her lips were turning blue. That beautiful brown skin I kissed every night before bed was going gray. I screamed her name. I screamed until my throat bled. People were running towards us. Someone was shouting about calling 911. A man in a business suit was trying to open my door, but it was crushed shut, wedged against the driver's seat like a tomb. My baby, I kept screaming. Someone get my baby. A woman, blonde, maybe 40, wearing yoga pants and a face full of panic, managed to wrench open the back door. She reached for Maya, and I saw her hands freeze. She's not breathing, the woman said, and those 3 words carved themselves into my soul. Time became strange after that. Everything moved in slow motion and lightning fast at the same time. The woman pulled Maya out of the car seat. Someone else, a teenage boy with acne and terrified eyes, said he knew CPR from lifeguard training. He laid my baby on the asphalt, that dirty, oil-stained asphalt, and started compressions on her tiny chest. I couldn't reach her. I was still trapped in the front seat watching my daughter's life slip away through a gap in crumpled metal. The sirens came, red and blue lights painting the afternoon in colors that mean tragedy. 2 paramedics took over from the teenager, working with swift, practiced movements that somehow made everything worse because it meant this was serious enough to need practice. One of them, a black man with gray in his beard and steady hands, looked up at his partner and shook his head. That's when the other paramedic, a young woman with red hair pulled back tight, came to my window. She was the one who told me Maya's heart had stopped beating 4 minutes ago. "We're doing everything we can," she said, but her eyes were already apologizing. 4 minutes without oxygen. 4 minutes without a heartbeat. I knew what that meant. I'd watched enough medical shows during my insomniac nights after Maya's father left. 4 minutes was the edge of the cliff. After that, even if they brought her back, the Maya I knew, the one who turned everything into music, might be gone forever. They finally got my door open. 2 firefighters with hydraulic tools. They pulled me out onto a stretcher, but I fought them. I fought with everything I had. I need to be with her! That's my daughter! Maya! A police officer, young guy, couldn't have been more than 25, gently held my shoulders. Ma'am, you need to let them work. You're injured too. You're bleeding. I looked down. He was right. Blood was soaking through my shirt from somewhere. I hadn't even felt it. Didn't care. They loaded me into one ambulance, my baby into another. As they closed the doors, I saw something strange. A third vehicle had arrived at the scene. Not an ambulance or police car, but a black town car, sleek and expensive, completely out of place among the emergency vehicles. A man stepped out, tall, maybe 60, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He had silver hair and the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or congressional hearings. He walked straight toward the ambulance where Maya was. One of the paramedics tried to stop him, but he said something. I couldn't hear what, and she stepped aside immediately, like she'd been given orders by God himself. The man climbed into the ambulance with my daughter. "Who is that?" I asked the officer, but my ambulance doors were already closing. The last thing I saw before we pulled away was that stranger, that impossibly out-of-place stranger, leaning over my daughter's still body with an expression I couldn't read, determination mixed with something that looked almost like recognition. And I remember thinking, in that moment between consciousness and the black void rushing up to swallow me, who the hell are you? And why do you look at my dying child like you know her? I woke up in a hospital room that was too nice. That was my first coherent thought. Not where's Maya, not am I okay, but this room is too nice for my insurance. The walls were cream-colored instead of institutional beige. There was a window with actual curtains, not those plasticky vertical blinds that never close all the way. A flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, a chair that looked comfortable. Then, reality caught up, and I tried to sit up so fast, the IV in my arm yanked and sent a spike of pain through my hand. "Maya, where's—" Miss Cole, a nurse appeared instantly, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. She was older, maybe 55, with kind eyes and a voice that had delivered bad news before. "You need to stay calm. You have 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and lacerations that required 42 stitches. Where's my daughter?" The nurse hesitated. That pause, God, that pause was an eternity. "She's alive." I started crying. Couldn't help it. The relief was physical, like someone had been standing on my chest and finally stepped off. "But," the nurse continued, and that word dropped like a stone. "She's in critical condition. Pediatric ICU, 3rd floor. The doctors are doing everything they can." "I need to see her." "You're not cleared to." "I don't care." I was already pulling off the blanket, trying to swing my legs over the side of the bed, even though every movement felt like being stabbed. "That's my baby. I need to see my baby right now." The nurse looked at me for a long moment. Then she made a decision. "Let me get a wheelchair." 10 minutes later, she was rolling me through corridors that smelled like antiseptic and fear, into an elevator, down a hallway where the lights seemed dimmer and the sounds were muffled like the building itself was holding its breath. The pediatric ICU was a special kind of hell. Glass-walled rooms where you could see other people's nightmares playing out in real time. Tiny bodies hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed and kept track of whether miracles were still possible. Maya's room was at the end. Through the glass, I could see her. So small? So impossibly small in that hospital bed, surrounded by more tubes and wires than seemed physically possible. A ventilator breathing for her. Monitors tracking every function of her body. Her beautiful curls spread out on the pillow like a crown. But she was alive. "Only 5 minutes," the nurse said softly. "And you can't touch her. Risk of infection." I nodded, unable to speak. She wheeled me inside, and I just sat there, staring at my daughter, memorizing every detail like I was afraid she might disappear if I looked away. That's when I noticed the man. He was standing in the corner, so still I'd almost missed him. The same man from the accident scene. Silver hair, expensive suit, that face that belonged to someone important. He was watching Maya with an intensity that should have scared me, but somehow didn't. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice hoarse. He turned, and his eyes were strange. Gray, almost colorless, but not cold. Just measuring, like he was calculating something vast and complex behind that calm expression. "My name is Richard Ashford," he said. His voice matched everything else about him. Cultured, controlled, used to being listened to. "I was 3 cars behind you when the accident happened." "You got into the ambulance with her?" "Yes." "Why?" He moved closer, his hands clasped behind his back. "Because I recognized what the paramedics didn't. Your daughter didn't just have cardiac arrest from the trauma. She has a congenital heart defect, hypoplastic left heart syndrome. The accident triggered a cascade failure, but the underlying condition was already there, undiagnosed." I stared at him. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because 43 years ago, my daughter died from the same condition. She was 3 years old, same age as Maya." Something flickered across his face, old pain, carefully controlled. "I've spent 40 decades studying pediatric cardiology, funding research, learning to recognize the signs. When I saw your daughter's color, her distress pattern, the way her body was responding, I knew." My hands were shaking. "The doctors never said anything about a heart defect. She's had checkups. She's been fine. It can hide for years. Some children don't show symptoms until a stress event triggers it. I've already called her. She can be here by tomorrow morning along with her full surgical team. The hospital has already been notified to prepare their cardiac wing." I shook my head, trying to process. "Why would you do this? You don't know us." "Because I failed my daughter." His voice cracked. Just barely, just for a second. "I was building my company. I was chasing money, and I missed the signs. By the time we got her to a hospital, it was too late. I had all the wealth in the world, and it couldn't save her." He looked at Maya, and I saw something raw in his expression. "I can't bring Emma back, but I can save Maya, and I will, if you'll let me." "I don't understand. You'd pay $800,000 for a stranger's child?" "Miss Cole, I'm worth approximately $4.7 billion. This surgery represents roughly 0.017% of my net worth. It's the equivalent of you giving someone $17. Except for you, $17 might mean choosing between gas and groceries. For me," he looked back at me, "for me, it means a chance at redemption I never thought I'd get." I wanted to say yes immediately. What kind of mother wouldn't? But something held me back. Pride, maybe, or fear, or the learned instinct that nothing in life comes free. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing." "Nobody gives away that kind of money for nothing." "I do." He pulled out a business card, set it on the table beside the wheelchair. I looked at my daughter, at the machines breathing for her, at her chest rising and falling mechanically. 3 days. Why are you really doing this? Richard Ashford was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Because 43 years ago, a stranger stopped at the scene of my daughter's collapse. He was a doctor, just driving home from his shift. He tried to save Emma. He failed, but he tried with everything he had. I never got to thank him properly. He died of a heart attack himself 2 years later. He looked directly at me, and I saw tears in those gray eyes. That doctor's name was Marcus Webb. He was black, in his 60s, and according to his wife, He'd faced a lifetime of discrimination in medicine. But when he saw my daughter dying on that sidewalk, none of that mattered. He didn't see my money or my race or my last name. He just saw a child who needed help. I spent years searching for ways to repay that kindness. I donated to medical schools, funded scholarships, built clinics, but it never felt like enough. It never felt direct. He gestured toward Maya. This is direct. This is me, finally, paying forward what Marcus Webb gave me, someone who saw a child in need and chose to act. I realized I was crying again. Tomorrow morning, he said quietly, Dr. Reeves will arrive at 7 a.m. The surgery will take approximately 14 hours. Maya's chances are excellent. He moved toward the door, then paused. You should know, the driver who hit you was drunk. 32 years old, 3 prior DUIs. He walked away with minor injuries. He's being charged with multiple felonies. Something dark moved through me. Good. The hospital has your information. My lawyer will be in touch within the hour. All you need to do is sign consent forms for the surgery. Everything else is handled. He left, and I was alone with my daughter and the steady beep of machines, keeping her alive. I looked at the business card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. Richard Ashford, CEO, Ashford Industries. I Googled him on my phone with shaking hands. 37,000 results. News articles, Forbes profiles, philanthropist, genius, recluse. Built a tech empire from nothing. Lost his wife to cancer 12 years ago. Lost his daughter 43 years ago. Never remarried, no other children. What article from 6 years ago caught my eye? Billionaire Ashford donates $300 million to pediatric heart research in daughter's memory. This was real. He was real. A nurse came in, different one, younger. Miss Cole, you need to get back to your room. You're still recovering. 5 more minutes, please. She looked at Maya, then at me. 5 minutes. When she left, I wheeled myself as close to Maya's bed as I could get without touching her. Baby girl, someone's going to help you. Someone who understands. Someone who knows what it's like to lose everything and still choose to save someone anyway. Her monitor beeped steadily. The ventilator breathed for her. You're going to be okay. You have to be okay. Because I already chose your first day of kindergarten outfit, and I need you to be there to complain about it. I sat there for my 5 minutes, watching my daughter fight for her life, thinking about chance and fate and the invisible threads that connect strangers in their darkest moments. Thinking about Marcus Webb, a doctor I'd never meet, who saved my daughter 37 years before she was born. Thinking about Richard Ashford, who had spent 4 decades looking for redemption in the faces of sick children. And thinking about drunk drivers and broken windshields, and how the worst moment of your life can somehow also be the door to a miracle you never saw coming. The nurse came back. Time to go. As she wheeled me out, I looked back one more time at Maya, and I swear I saw her little finger twitch. Just once. But it was enough. Dr. Catherine Reeves looked like someone who'd stopped caring about sleep 20 years ago and replaced it with pure determination. She arrived at 6:45 the next morning, 15 minutes early, with a team of 5 other medical professionals who moved with the synchronized precision of people who'd done this dance many times before. I watched them from my hospital bed, where I'd been moved to a room directly above the surgical wing. Another unexplained upgrade I was starting to understand came from Richard Ashford's quiet intervention. Dr. Reeves came to see me before the surgery. She was in her late 50s, short gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and hands that looked strong enough to hold a heart in place while rebuilding it. Miss Cole, I'm Catherine Reeves. You can call me Dr. Kate. All my patients' parents do. She sat down without asking, like we were old friends. I need to explain exactly what we're going to do today, and I need you to understand both the risks and the reality. Can you handle that? I nodded, gripping the bed rails. Your daughter has hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Essentially, the left side of her heart never fully developed. It's been working at about 30% capacity her entire life, and her little body has been compensating magnificently. Until the trauma from the accident pushed everything past its breaking point. She pulled out a tablet, showed me diagrams I barely understood. We're going to perform what's called a Norwood procedure, modified with some techniques I've developed over the past decade. We'll reconstruct the heart so the right ventricle does the work of both sides. It's complicated, it's delicate, and it requires me to stop your daughter's heart completely for approximately 4 hours while we work. 4 hours without a heartbeat. The success rate for this surgery is 92% in my hands. The mortality risk is 8%. Of the children who survive, 96% go on to live normal lives. School, sports, careers, families of their own. 4% experience complications that require follow-up surgeries. She looked directly at me. I've performed this surgery 163 times. I've lost 13 children. Each one of their names is tattooed on my back, and I visit their graves every year on the anniversary of the surgery. I tell you this not to scare you, but to let you know I understand exactly what I'm asking you to trust me with. My voice came out broken. Will she remember any of this? No. She's 3. This will just be a gap in time for her. When she wakes up, you'll be there, and that's all that will matter. Dr. Kate reached out and squeezed my hand. I read the accident report. I know you're alone. I know Maya's father isn't in the picture. I know you work 2 jobs, and you're probably terrified not just of losing her, but of what comes after. The recovery, the bills, the future. Mr. Ashford said Richard has covered everything. Surgery, hospital stay, follow-up care, medications, home nursing if needed. He's also set up a trust fund for Maya's ongoing medical expenses for the rest of her life. You'll never see a bill for any of this. I started crying, couldn't stop. Dr. Kate handed me tissues. He does this more than people know. Not often, maybe once a year, twice if he finds the right cases. He's very particular. He doesn't save everyone. But when he commits completely. Why us? I don't know his full criteria, but I know it's always children with heart conditions. Always situations where the parents are good people facing impossible circumstances. And always cases where I'm available to perform the surgery. She smiled slightly. He trusts exactly one surgeon. Took him 3 years to find me after his daughter died. He funded my research for a decade before we ever spoke directly. He's been planning this? Looking for chances to save children? Looking for the right children. The ones who deserve it. The ones whose parents would fight like hell to save them if they had the resources. Dr. Kate stood up. You qualify, Vanessa. From what I've seen in the past 18 hours, the way you fought to get to your daughter, the way every nurse on this floor has mentioned your fierce love, you're exactly the kind of mother Richard is hoping to help. She checked her watch. We need to prep Maya now. Surgery starts at 8. It'll take 14 to 16 hours. There's a private waiting room on the 4th floor. Richard had it set up for you. Comfortable chairs, food, a bed if you need to rest. My nurse will update you every 2 hours. Understood? Can I see her first? Already arranged. 5 minutes, make them count. They brought me down in a wheelchair. My ribs were screaming, but I didn't care. Maya was awake. Not fully. She was groggy, medicated, but her eyes opened when she heard my voice. Mama? That word. God, that word. Hey, baby girl. I'm right here. My chest hurts. I know, sweetheart. I know. But there are doctors who are going to make it better, okay? They're going to fix everything. You'll stay? I reached through the bed rails, breaking every protocol, and held her little hand. I'm not going anywhere. When you wake up, I'll be right there. I promise. Okay. Her eyes were drooping. Mama, I had a dream about a silver bird. Yeah? What was the bird doing? Singing. Said I was gonna fly, too. She smiled, that beautiful smile that filled every empty space in my life. I want to fly, Mama. You will, baby. You're gonna fly so high. She closed her eyes, already drifting. A nurse gently touched my shoulder. Time to let her rest, Miss Cole. They wheeled her away, and I watched that hospital bed disappear down the corridor toward the surgical wing, taking my entire world with it. The private waiting room was exactly as promised. Too nice, too comfortable, wrong for the occasion. You shouldn't have luxury while your child's chest is cracked open on an operating table. Richard Ashford was there, sitting in the corner with a laptop, working like this was just another Tuesday. Mr. Ashford. He looked up. Vanessa, how are you holding up? I don't know. I feel like I should be doing something. Like I should be, I don't know, praying or pacing or screaming. All valid options. He closed the laptop. Would you like company or would you prefer to be alone? I sat down heavily, my ribs protesting. Company. If you don't mind, I don't want to be alone with my thoughts right now. He nodded. Understood. We sat in silence for a while. Then I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since yesterday. Tell me about Emma. His face changed, softened in a way I hadn't seen before. She was chaos in a tiny body, knocked over everything, questioned everything, laughed at everything. My wife used to joke that Emma was what you got when you crossed a hurricane with a philosopher. He smiled, and it was genuine. She'd ask questions like, why is blue called blue? And where do thoughts live? And we'd spend hours trying to answer her. She sounds like Maya. Does she ask impossible questions? Just yesterday morning, my voice caught. Was it only yesterday? Yesterday morning, she asked me why clouds don't fall down. And I tried to explain about water vapor being lighter than air, and she listened really seriously and then said, Mama, if clouds are made of water and water falls in the rain, that means clouds are falling down just really slow. And she was right. Richard laughed, actually laughed. That's exactly the kind of logic that made Emma impossible to argue with. She'd back you into corners with her 3-year-old philosophy. What happened the day she died? He was quiet for a long moment. She was running in the backyard, just running in circles the way children do when they have too much energy. I was inside on a conference call, some deal that seemed critically important at the time, though I can't even remember what company it was now. My wife was making lunch. He stared at his hands. Emma came inside and said she felt dizzy. My wife told her to sit down, get some water. Emma sat down at the kitchen table and just slumped forward, unresponsive. We called 911, but by the time they arrived, she was gone. And the doctor, Marcus Webb, he was just driving by? He heard my wife screaming, pulled over, ran into the house, and spent 45 minutes trying to save Emma while we waited for the ambulance. He had a full emergency kit in his car. He'd been a field medic in Vietnam before becoming a doctor. He tried everything. Chest compressions, rescue breathing, even a manual defibrillator he carried with him. Richard's voice was rough now. When the ambulance finally came, he rode with us to the hospital. Stayed with us for 6 hours while doctors ran tests and confirmed what he already knew. Catastrophic heart failure, congenital defect. Nothing could have saved her. I understood now. You've been looking for him in every child you save. Maybe. Or maybe I've been looking for myself. The version of me that would have noticed Emma's symptoms, that would have put down the phone and paid attention, that would have chosen my daughter over a business deal that didn't matter. You were working. That's not a crime. No, but it was a choice. And for 43 years, I've lived with that choice. He looked at me directly. You, Vanessa, you notice everything about Maya. You fought through broken ribs and head trauma to get to her bedside. You work 2 jobs to give her a life. You're the parent I should have been. I'm not special. I'm just her mother. That's what makes you special. The first update came at 10 a.m. A nurse in surgical scrubs, young woman, kind eyes, stepped into the waiting room. Miss Cole, Dr. Reeves wanted me to let you know we're 2 hours in. Everything is proceeding as expected. Maya's vitals are stable. Does she feel anything? She's completely under anesthesia. She feels nothing. The next update will be at noon. 12 o'clock came. 4 hours in, Dr. Reeves has successfully reconstructed the first chamber, no complications. 2 p.m. 6 hours. They're halfway through. Maya's body is responding well to the repairs. 4 p.m. 8 hours. Dr. Reeves says to tell you that your daughter has a fighter's heart, even if it needed some help from science. 6 p.m. 10 hours. They're beginning the final reconstructions. Dr. Reeves estimates 4 more hours. Richard stayed the entire time. He worked quietly on his laptop, ordered food that I couldn't eat, and every 2 hours when the updates came, he'd set everything aside and listen with complete attention. Like Maya's progress was the most important business he'd ever conducted. At 8 p.m., a different nurse came in. Older, serious expression. "Miss Cole." My heart stopped. The tone was wrong. "There's been a complication." The complication wasn't with Maya. It was with me. "Your blood pressure just spiked to dangerous levels," the nurse said, already taking my vitals. "You're experiencing what we call sympathetic stress response. Your body is reacting to the trauma and anxiety as if you're under physical attack." I don't care about me. I need to know about Maya. Maya is fine. She's still in surgery and everything is progressing normally. But you, she gave me a stern look. You have broken ribs, a severe concussion, and 42 stitches holding you together. Your body needs rest, and instead you've been sitting upright in a chair for 12 hours, running on adrenaline and fear. Richard stood up. "Vanessa, she's right. You're no good to Maya if you collapse." "I can't sleep while she's in surgery. I can't." The nurse, her name tag said Gloria, softened. "I'm not asking you to sleep, but I am going to give you something to lower your blood pressure and manage the pain, because right now you're heading toward a stroke. And then where would Maya be when she wakes up?" That got through. The thought of Maya opening her eyes and me not being there because I'd been too stubborn to take care of myself. Fine, but I'm not leaving this room. Gloria injected something into my IV line. I'd forgotten I was still hooked up to it. Within minutes, the razor-edge panic dulled to something more manageable. The pain in my ribs faded from screaming to a dull ache. "Better?" Gloria asked, even though nothing about this was better. She left, promising the next surgical update would come at 10 p.m. Richard stared at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "What?" I asked. "You remind me of Marcus Webb." "The doctor who tried to save Emma?" He had that same stubborn refusal to give up, that same willingness to destroy himself if it meant helping someone else. Richard set his laptop aside. "Did you know he had a daughter?" I shook my head. "Her name was Diana. She's a neurosurgeon now. Practices in Baltimore. After her father died, I tracked her down. Took me a year to find her. She'd changed her name when she got married. I wanted to tell her what her father did, how he'd tried to save Emma, how much it meant." "What did she say?" "She said her father helped everyone. That was just who he was. She told me stories about him, how he'd stop at accident scenes even when he was off duty, how he volunteered at free clinics, how he once spent his entire Christmas Eve in the ER helping other doctors because they were short-staffed." Richard's voice grew quiet. "He also told me her father faced discrimination his entire career. He was brilliant, top of his class, innovative thinker, gifted hands. But he was passed over for promotions, excluded from prestigious surgical teams, watched wait doctors with half his skill move ahead while he stayed in the background. That's not fair. No, it's not. But Marcus never became bitter. According to Diana, he used to say, 'I didn't become a doctor for recognition. I became a doctor because people need help, and I have the skills to help them. Everything else is just noise.'" I thought about that, about working 2 jobs, about being a single mother, about all the ways life wasn't fair, and still choosing to show up, to try, to fight for the people you loved. Is that why you helped me? Because I'm Black and struggling and it reminded you of Marcus? Richard met my eyes directly. I helped you because your daughter was dying and I could save her. Your race, your financial situation, your circumstances, those are just details. What matters is that Maya deserves to live, and you deserve to have your child, and I have the resources to make that happen. But you've done this before. The nurse said you save maybe 1 or 2 children a year? How do you choose? He was quiet for a long moment. I look for parents who love their children the way I loved Emma, but who actually show up in the ways I failed to. Parents who work multiple jobs, who sacrifice everything, who notice the small details. Parents who would fight through broken ribs to reach their child's bedside. That's most parents. You'd be surprised. I've encountered parents who viewed sick children as burdens, parents who spent more time blaming doctors than comforting their kids, parents who saw tragedy as an opportunity for sympathy and attention. His voice hardened. Those parents don't get my help, not because their children don't deserve to live, but because there are limited resources, and I choose to invest them where they'll mean the most. That's a lot of power for one person. Yes, which is why I'm very careful with it. The 10 p.m. update came, 12 hours into surgery. Dr. Reeves estimated 2 more hours, possibly 3. How are you staying awake, Richard? It's been, 36 hours since the accident? 41. I don't sleep much anymore. Haven't since my wife died. He said it matter-of-factly, like commenting on the weather. I work instead. Keeps the mind occupied. Do you have anyone? Family? Friends? I have employees, business associates, acquaintances. Not many friends. He considered, when you have money like I do, it becomes difficult to know who values you versus who values what you can provide. After a while, it's easier to just keep people at a distance. That sounds lonely. It is. But loneliness is manageable. Losing another person I love is not. I understood that. After Maya's father left, I'd kept everyone at arm's length too. Co-workers stayed co-workers. Neighbors stayed neighbors. The only person I let fully in was Maya, because she was worth the risk of potential loss. What was your wife's name? Lillian. Lily. His face softened again. She was a kindergarten teacher. Believed every child was capable of brilliance if given the right encouragement. After Emma died, she threw herself into teaching like it could fill the hole. Maybe it did for a while. How did she die? Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed in February, gone by September. She was 53. He paused. The cruel irony is that I could have afforded any treatment in the world, but pancreatic cancer doesn't care about money. By the time they found it, there was nothing to do but make her comfortable. I'm sorry. So am I. Every day. He looked at his hands. Lily used to say I was trying to buy redemption. She wasn't wrong. After Emma, I became obsessed with fixing things, funding research, building hospitals, saving children. Lily supported it, but she also worried I was trying to resurrect Emma instead of accepting her loss. Were you? Probably. Is that so wrong? Using grief as motivation to help others?
No, but it's also not healing. He looked at me sharply. Is that what you think I need? Healing? I think we all need healing. I think trauma doesn't disappear just because you throw money at other people's problems. It just gets buried deeper. Richard was silent for a long time. Then, quietly, "You sound like Lily. She sounds like she was smart." She was. Much smarter than me. He rubbed his eyes. She made me promise, before she died, that I'd find a way to actually live again, not just work and save and acquire, actually live. Have you kept that promise? No. But I'm trying. He gestured around the waiting room. This is part of trying. Being present, not just writing checks from a distance. The midnight update came. 14 hours into surgery, final stages. Dr. Reeves expected to close within 90 minutes. We were so close. Maya was so close. What happens after? I asked. When she wakes up? 6 to 8 weeks of recovery here in the hospital, then home with home nursing care for another 3 months. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, gradual return to normal activity. Richard recited it like he'd memorized it. Dr. Reeves will want to see her every 6 months for the first 2 years, then annually after that. Maya will need to avoid contact sports, but otherwise, she can do everything other children do. She's gonna hate being cooped up. Then we'll make sure she has books, toys, visitors, anything she needs. He smiled slightly. I may have already arranged for a child life specialist to work with her, someone who makes hospitals less scary for kids. You've thought of everything. I've had 43 years to think about what Emma needed and didn't get. Maya will get everything. At 1:47 a.m., I remember the exact time because I had been staring at the clock like I could will it to move faster. Dr. Kate walked into the waiting room. She was still in surgical scrubs, cap pulled off, looking exhausted in that deep bone way that comes from hours of intense concentration. But she was smiling. "She's perfect," Dr. Kate said, and I started crying before she even finished. The surgery was successful. No complications. Her new heart is working beautifully. She's being moved to pediatric ICU right now. I couldn't speak, couldn't form words. Dr. Kate sat down next to me. She'll be sedated for another 6 to 8 hours. When she wakes up, she's going to be confused and in pain, but that's normal. We'll manage it. She'll be on a ventilator for approximately 48 hours. Then we'll try breathing on her own. If all goes well, and I expect it will, she'll be off all the machines within a week. Can I see her? I asked. In about 30 minutes, once she's settled in ICU. But Vanessa, Dr. Kate took my hand. She looks scary right now. Tubes, wires, swelling, bruising. It's a lot. I need you to be prepared. I can handle it. I know you can. I just want you to remember that underneath all that medical equipment is your daughter, healing, getting stronger every minute. She stood up, shook Richard's hand. Thank you for finding me. This is why I do this work. After she left, Richard turned to me. I'm going to step out for a bit, give you some time alone with Maya when you see her, but I'll be around if you need anything. Richard, I stopped him. Thank you. I know I've said it before, but thank you. You saved my daughter's life. No, Dr. Reeves saved her life. I just paid the bill. He paused at the door. But you're welcome. And Vanessa, your daughter is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. That's what makes you a good parent, knowing you're the lucky one. He left, and I sat alone in that too nice waiting room, crying tears of relief and exhaustion and gratitude and fear and hope, all tangled together. 30 minutes later, a nurse came to take me to Maya. The pediatric ICU was quieter now, in the dead hours of the night. Most of the rooms were dark, children sleeping, machines humming their steady rhythms. Maya's room was at the end, just like before. And Dr. Kate was right. She looked scary.
So small in that bed, surrounded by machines and tubes and monitors. Her chest was bandaged, rising and falling mechanically as the ventilator breathed for her. Her face was swollen, bruised, IVs in both arms, catheter, feeding tube, chest drainage tubes. But she was alive. Her heart, her beautiful, repaired, rebuilt heart, was beating on the monitor. Steady, strong. I wheeled myself as close as I could get, reached through the rails, and gently touched her hand. "Hey, baby girl. Mama's here. You did it. You're so strong, so brave." My voice cracked. "You flew, Maya, just like in your dream. You flew, and now you're coming back to me." Her fingers twitched, just slightly, just enough. I sat there in the darkness, watching my daughter breathe, watching her heart beat its steady rhythm on the monitor, thinking about silver-haired billionaires and pediatric surgeons with tattoos of children's names, and doctors who stopped at accident scenes even when they were exhausted, thinking about drunk drivers and random chance, and how the worst moment of your life can crack open into something you never imagined. Not just survival, but grace. Thinking about second chances and how some people spend their entire lives trying to earn one. "Thank you," I whispered. Not sure who I was talking to. God, maybe. The universe. Marcus Webb. Richard Ashford. Dr. Kate. All of them. Thank you for giving her back to me. The monitor beeped its steady reply. Beep, 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 beep. The sound of a heart that would keep beating for decades to come. Maya woke up 3 days later, and her first words were, "Mama, why does everything hurt?" The most beautiful sentence I'd ever heard. I'd been living in that ICU room, sleeping in a chair by her bedside despite nurses and doctors insisting I needed proper rest. My ribs had healed enough that breathing didn't feel like being stabbed anymore, and the stitches were itching rather than burning. But I wasn't leaving, not for anything. Richard visited every day, usually in the early morning before most people were awake. He'd sit quietly in the corner with his laptop, working, occasionally looking up to check Maya's monitors, like he could read them better than the nurses. Maybe he could. He'd probably studied more cardiac medicine than most doctors. "Everything hurts because you had surgery," I told Maya, smoothing her curls back from her forehead. "The doctors fixed your heart, baby, made it stronger." "Did they take it out?" She went wide with that mix of horror and fascination only a 3-year-old could manage. "Sort of, but they put it right back." "Can I see?" "Not yet. Maybe when you're older." I smiled, even though I was crying. I had been crying on and off for 3 days. Relief tears, joy tears, exhausted tears. "How do you feel?" "Tired and hungry and..." She looked around the room, taking in all the machines, the tubes, the medical equipment. Her eyes landed on Richard in the corner. For a second, his carefully controlled expression cracked, and I saw raw emotion, grief and joy, and something that looked like redemption, all mixed together. "That's Mr. Richard," I said. "He's a friend. He helped the doctors save you." "Hi, Mr. Richard." Maya's voice was small and hoarse from the ventilator tube that had only been removed yesterday. "Hello, Maya." Richard stood up, moved closer, but not too close. He understood about giving her space. "It's nice to meet you properly. How are you feeling?" "My chest hurts, like when I fell off the swing and got a big owie." "That makes sense. You have a big owie right now, but it's going to get better every day." "Mama says you helped the doctors." "I did. The doctor who fixed your heart is named Dr. Kate. She's very good at her job." "Did it cost a lot of money?"
Maya asked with that blunt honesty children have. Mama always says doctors cost a lot of money. Richard smiled. Yes, it cost money, but that's okay. Money is useful when it can help people. Are you rich? Maya, I started, embarrassed, but Richard laughed.
Yes, I'm rich. Very rich. Does that matter to you? Maya thought about it seriously. No. Mama says what matters is if people are nice. Are you nice? I try to be. Am I succeeding? You helped me, so you must be nice. Mean people don't help. She paused. Thank you for helping me, Mr. Richard. Something happened to Richard's face. The mask slipped completely, and for a moment he looked like he might cry. Instead, he nodded. You're very welcome, Maya. It was my honor. Dr. Kate came in then, all business and efficiency, but smiling when she saw Maya awake and talking. Look who decided to join us. How's my favorite patient? Everything hurts, Maya repeated, apparently her main observation about the world right now. I know, sweetheart, but we're going to manage that pain, and every day it'll hurt a little less. Can I check your heart? Maya nodded seriously, and Dr. Kate did a quick examination, listening to her heart, checking her vitals, examining the surgical site. Beautiful, Dr. Kate pronounced. Your heart sounds strong. You're healing exactly as you should be. When can I go home? Not for a while yet. Maybe 6 or 7 more weeks. We need to make sure everything is working perfectly first. Maya's face fell. That's forever. I know it feels that way, but your mama will be here every day, and we'll make sure you have things to do and people to visit with. It won't be as boring as you think. After Dr. Kate left, Maya turned to me. Mama, I'm really tired again. Then sleep, baby. I'll be right here when you wake up. Promise? Promise. She closed her eyes, and within minutes, she was asleep again, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm that I would never take for granted again. Richard stood to leave, but I stopped him. Can we talk? Outside? We stepped into the hallway, leaving the door open so I could still see Maya. She's remarkable, Richard said quietly. She has Lily's spirit, that curiosity, that directness. She does come out with things. I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted now that the adrenaline of Maya waking up was fading. Richard, I need to talk to you about what happens next. I told you everything is covered. The trust fund, the medical expenses, all of it. I know, and I'm grateful. But I can't just accept all of this without understanding what it means. You've changed our lives. You've given Maya a future. There has to be something I can do to pay you back, even partially. There isn't. Please, let me at least try to contribute something. I can set up a payment plan, maybe pay back a small percentage over time. Vanessa, stop. His voice was firm, but not unkind. If you try to pay me back, even partially, you'll turn this gift into a debt. You'll spend the rest of your life working to repay something that was never meant to be repaid. Is that what you want for Maya? A mother who's too busy working 3 jobs to actually be present? I hadn't thought of it that way. The only thing I want from you, Richard continued, is for you to be the parent you already are. Love Maya, be present, notice the small things. Give her the childhood she deserves. That's the payment. That doesn't seem fair to you. Fair would be Emma still being alive. Fair would be Marcus Webb getting recognized for his brilliance instead of being passed over because of racism. Fair would be you never getting hit by a drunk driver in the first place. He shook his head. Life isn't fair, Vanessa, but that doesn't mean we can't try to balance the scales when we have the chance. I was quiet for a moment. Then, can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I may not answer. Do you see Emma when you look at Maya? He considered the question carefully. No, Maya is entirely herself. But I see the life Emma could have had, the questions she would have asked, the person she would have become. He paused. Does that bother you? No, I think it's beautiful. Sad, but beautiful. Lily used to say that grief doesn't end, it just changes shape. You learn to carry it differently. He looked at Maya through the doorway. Saving Maya doesn't bring Emma back, but it does give Emma's loss a meaning beyond just pain. It turns her death into a catalyst for life. That's the best I can do. Over the next 6 weeks, Maya healed faster than anyone expected. The child life specialist Richard had hired, a woman named Jennifer who had a gift for making hospitals feel less scary, came every day with art supplies, books, and stories. Maya drew pictures of her heart as a superhero. Heart Girl, she called it, fighting the bad guys that make people sick. Physical therapists helped her rebuild strength. At first, just sitting up was exhausting. Then standing. Then walking across the room. Then finally, 3 weeks after surgery, she walked all the way to the ICU playroom by herself, while nurses applauded. Richard brought gifts, but never toys, always books or art supplies or music. Objects that create experiences, he explained to me once. I don't want her to remember this as the time a rich man gave her stuff. I want her to remember it as the time she discovered she loved drawing or music or stories. My favorite moment came 5 weeks post-surgery. Maya was strong enough to leave the ICU and move to a regular pediatric floor, a huge milestone. The new room had a window overlooking a small garden, and for the first time since the accident, Maya could see the outside world. Mama, look! Birds! I came to the window. 3 small birds, sparrows, maybe, were hopping around the garden, pecking at seeds someone had scattered. Do you remember your dream about the silver bird? Maya nodded, watching the birds with intense focus. You flew, baby. You flew and you came back. Can we go outside soon? I want to feed the birds. Soon. As soon as Dr. Kate says you're strong enough. That afternoon, Richard brought a bird feeder. Just appeared with it. This beautiful handmade wooden thing that looked like a tiny house. I thought we could hang it outside your window, he told Maya. Then you can watch the birds every day. Really? For me? For you. It took him and 2 maintenance workers an hour to install it properly, but by evening, birds were already visiting. Maya sat by the window, naming each one. That's Larry. That's Francine. That one with the funny feather is definitely named Mr. Wobbles. I found Richard in the hallway afterward. You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. He smiled. Did you know that birds were Emma's favorite? She used to spend hours watching them in our backyard, had names for all of them too. Mr. Wobbles seems like an Emma kind of name. It absolutely is. 2 weeks before Maya was cleared to go home, Richard asked if he could talk to me privately. We met in the hospital cafe, a sad little room with bad coffee and tired doctors. I need to tell you something, Richard said, and his tone was serious enough to make my stomach clench. What's wrong? Is it Maya? Did Dr. Kate find something? No, Maya is perfect. This is about me. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. I'm sick. The world tilted. What? Stage 3 colon cancer. Diagnosed 4 months ago. I've been doing treatment, but... He trailed off. The prognosis isn't good. Maybe a year, maybe 2, not much more than that. I couldn't speak. I tell you this because I need you to understand why the timing of Maya's accident mattered. I've been looking for one last child to save, one last chance to do what I couldn't do for Emma. And then I was driving home from a doctor's appointment where I'd just gotten some particularly bad test results, and I saw your car get hit, and I saw your daughter turning blue, and I knew. Knew what? That this was it, my last chance. The universe or God or whatever you want to call it, giving me one more opportunity to turn my failure into someone else's miracle. He met my eyes. I'm not telling you this for sympathy.
I'm telling you because when I die, probably in the next 18 months, you're going to hear about it on the news. Billionaire Richard Ashford dead. Enormous estate, questions about his will, and I need you to know that it's handled.
What's handled? The trust fund for Maya is irrevocable. Nothing can touch it. Not probate, not taxes, not distant relatives trying to contest the will. Maya's medical care is guaranteed for life, no matter what happens to my estate or my company. Richard. There's more. I've also set up a separate fund in your name. Nothing huge, just enough to ensure you can work one job instead of two, can be present for Maya, can have the life you deserve without constantly worrying about money. I can't accept. You already have. The papers were signed weeks ago. It's done. He smiled. You can fight me if you want, but I'm dying, and I'd like to use my last year doing nice things for good people without them arguing with me about it. I started crying. Couldn't help it. Why does everyone I meet have to be dying or leaving? It came out almost angry. Bad luck, bad timing, bad universe. He reached across the table, took my hand. But Maya isn't dying. That's what matters. Whatever time I have left, I get to know that when I'm gone, there's a little girl who's gonna grow up and ask impossible questions and turn everything into music and live a full, beautiful life because I happened to be driving behind your car on a random Tuesday afternoon. That's not random. I don't even know what that is. Grace, he said quietly. That's grace. Maya came home 8 weeks after the surgery on a Thursday afternoon when the sun was shining and the world felt brand new. She walked into our small apartment. Richard had offered to move us somewhere bigger, but I declined. This was our home, ours and Maya's, and that mattered. She walked into her room to check that all her toys were still there. Mama, Mr. Snuggles missed me. Mr. Snuggles was a battered stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 6 months old. I'd brought him to the hospital, but she'd been too sick at first to care, and by the time she was better, he'd been forgotten in the chaos. Mr. Snuggles definitely missed you, I called back. Richard had helped us get home, arranged medical transport, made sure we had all the supplies we'd need, and coordinated with the home health nurse who would visit 3 times a week. He was standing in the living room now, looking oddly out of place in his expensive suit among our secondhand furniture. Thank you, I told him, for everything, for being here. Nowhere else I'd rather be. Maya came running back out, not full speed yet, she was still healing, but running, nonetheless, and crashed into Richard's legs in what was clearly meant to be a hug. Will you come visit us, Mr. Richard? You can meet all my toys. He looked down at her, and I saw tears in his eyes. I would love that, Maya, if it's okay with your mother. Of course it's okay. Then yes, I'll visit, as often as you'll have me. Every day. Maybe not every day, but often. After he left, Maya and I sat on the couch together, her curled up against me in a way she hadn't been able to do for 2 months. Mama? Yeah, baby? I like Mr. Richard. He's sad, but he's nice. How do you know he's sad? His eyes. They look like how you looked when I was sick, like part of him is missing. 3 years old, and she saw everything. You're right. He is sad. But I think being friends with you makes him a little less sad. Good. Nobody should be sad. She yawned. Oh, Mama, I'm tired. But it's the good tired, like after we play at the park. Want to take a nap? Will you stay with me? Always. I carried her to her room. Dr. Kate had cleared me to carry her for short distances and tucked her into her own bed for the first time in 2 months. Mama? She murmured, already half asleep. Did I really fly? Yes, baby, you flew so high. Will I remember it? Maybe not all of it, but that's okay. I'll remember for both of us. Okay. Love you, Mama. Love you too, baby girl. So much. She fell asleep holding Mr. Snuggles, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm, her repaired heart beating strong and sure. I sat there for a long time, watching her sleep, thinking about drunk drivers and random chants and silver-haired billionaires and doctors who stop at accident scenes even when they're exhausted. Thinking about how the worst moment of your life can crack open into grace if you're lucky enough to have strangers who choose to be kind. Thinking about Richard Ashford, who'd spent 43 years trying to save his daughter and finally, in the last year of his life, had found a way to turn grief into something beautiful. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. "How's she doing?" "Perfect," I typed back, sleeping peacefully in her own bed. "Good. That's good." Then another message. "Thank you, Vanessa, for letting me be part of this, for giving me a chance at redemption I didn't deserve." You deserved it. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even billionaires? Especially billionaires who stop at accident scenes. A long pause. Then, "Marcus Webb would have liked you." I wish I could have met him. He would have said, "You have a doctor's heart." That's what he called it, people who see someone hurting and can't not help. I looked at Maya, sleeping peacefully, alive against all odds. "Maybe we all have that heart," I typed. "We just need someone to show us how to use it." Maybe you're right. I never saw Richard's response because Maya stirred, mumbled something about birds, and I put my phone away to focus on the miracle sleeping in front of me. But later, weeks later, after Richard died peacefully in his sleep with a smile on his face and the entire business world mourned the loss of a titan, I would find that last message he sent. It said simply, "Fly high, Maya, fly high for both of us." And she did. She does. Every single day. Thank you so much for watching this story. If you made it to the end, please let me know in the comments. Where are you from and what part touched you the most? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional true stories. Your support means everything. Until next time, remember, sometimes the worst moments of our lives are just doors opening to grace we never saw coming.